My name is Nathan Wallace, and I'll be presenting Creekside Park. This park is an effort to redevelop the Cathedral District within Jacksonville, Florida. Our studio, as well as the efforts of the City of Jacksonville, have noticed the need to redevelop this area for its vacant lots and homeless population. This portion of the city has really needed the development. My development, Creekside Park, takes the east side and really brings it to life in an experiential way in order to redefine, reconnect, and revitalize the Cathedral District. Creekside Park began with ideograms. Ideograms are diagrams in what we experience as the user. But to first understand these ideograms, I have to take you through the site. The existing site on the east side of the Cathedral District has a boundary edge of Hogan's Creek. You can see that on the right side of this existing site plan. On the left side, we will develop Unity Park. You can begin to see that in a semicircular park. This proposed site abuts this park in Hogan's Creek alongside with a residential corridor to the left. This residential corridor in yellow really begins to define a site edge and threshold at North Washington Street. At Duval Street, just south of this development, you can also see this. My proposed site begins to take shape, and although this site changes from this specific shape, it begins to show how the park residential corridor transitional facility to the east and commercial lots to the south work. This diagram shows site nodes, it shows pathways, and it shows how the park becomes the eastmost node and important place of this entire Cathedral District. And you can also see Unity Park to the left. As this site began to take shape, you can see that Church Street closed to this development, and the development really takes an urban feel with commercial buildings to the north, with a parking garage just to the east, and a series of residential lots and lofts to the south. These ideograms begin to explain what the user would experience. To really understand that experience, myself, the designer, really needs to take a back seat to how this is designed. I experience the site as the user. In the top left tile, you can see Washington Street. As perhaps I'd walk down Washington Street, what would I experience? What would I see and feel as though I was walking on the sidewalk and seeing buildings to my right? Washington and Ashley Street in the top tile, I begin to really experience what I am seeing in the park, how I'm beginning to see the creek take shape and how buildings might sit and lay on the park. In the top right, you can see perspectival blocking. In these sketches and diagrams, you can see how the cardinal directions really take shape in creating the adjacencies of buildings and how these buildings actually sit and where they sit. The creek adjacencies on the bottom left help to understand the building shapes. As a user, what am I expecting as I walk upon a building, a park facility, or boathouse? In the spatial adjacencies in the bottom center, what do these building shapes begin to look like? What experiences of the user spatially is being understood in the retail office pinch tile at the bottom right, I begin to get into what these development adjacencies feel and look like. These ideograms expand. You can see the field of the park with the creek taking shape on the northeastern edge. These buildings from my initial site findings ideograms, you can see how the buildings take shape, how the cardinal directions really inform and enforce a building edge and a building shape. User circulation paths and nodes and experiences begin to change the shape and alter each building, each storage facility, each park facility and boathouse. Every node explains something different in the mind's eye of the user, and all of these explanations culminate in a series of models. Understanding how these models spatially work alongside a development with this boathouse and park facility is crucial. Choosing one that seems to call to ideas and wants of the user culminates into one site program and plan. The site program seen here begins with an auxiliary pavilion on the west side, a recreational pavilion and main center point, recreational and organized storage that creates a pathway to the boathouse, a creek extension along Hogan's Creek is brought towards the recreational pavilion to house different events where docking and simple kayaking can take place, where there's learning or even swimming alongside the park. At the boathouse, there's main docking, there's boat storage, and along the pathway of the recreational and organized storage is additional boat storage, crew storage, and different park facility storage. The Creekside Park on the west side becomes experiential. These ideograms begin to explain what is seen in the park and what's experienced. The park facility frames the boathouse in this instance, where you can see the specific joinings of the creek extension to the left and the main park facility to the right. How users would connect themselves from perhaps a field or pitch where you play soccer and running over with your family to the recreational pavilion. In the bottom rendering, you can see how the creek joins the experiences on land with the water. There's observation from the park facility where you can see and overlook all of the happenings of the park. The experience on water is just as important on land, and beginning to see the connections of the pavilion to the boathouse and to the creek becomes very important. The boathouse is the connector in this project. It's the most east point and becomes the site pathway east and westward. It joins the creek literally to the project. Here there's observation, there's spaces for learning, and there's places and spaces for connecting and becoming a community, where there's not only docking of boats and storage, but there's a community-driven life between boating, the city of Jacksonville, and the St. Johns River, between this public boathouse and facility and all parties. In conclusion, you can see how the boathouse really interacts with the rest of the site. The boathouse is the connection between the pavilion and the rest of the city of Jacksonville. It connects waterways. St. John's River is one of the most important aspects of the city of Jacksonville. To really connect all of this together from a user perspective, the user has to be drawn upwards. The connection from water to sky to land all becomes pivotal in creating a redefinition, a reconnection, and revitalization of the Cathedral District. Thank you.